Okay. At the same time, it was just what I needed in my ambitious project. I contacted the government, and that was the beginning of what came to be known as Project Labyrinthia. A town with human test subjects, all in a state of long-term hypnosis. You devised that plan solely for the sake of your daughter? Yes, we acquired the land which had been laid to waste by the fire. The new town was slowly becoming populated. Gradually, the rules of Labyrinthia were established. It was to be a town where magic and witches were a reality to the residents. All of this was possible thanks to the drug. The test subjects were exposed to it through the ink used to pen the story, right? That's right. It was the dangerous drug developed by Newton. About 10 years have passed since then, and even now the town continues to change. Damn. Haha. Project Labyrinthia. And all this was done for one girl. Espella was only able to be herself when she lived within my story. Oh, the irony of it. Only within a world in which Bezella was real could Espella's tragic memories be sealed. All this while, Eve was assisting me. I was the first shade. As soon as the story began, I disappeared from the scene. If Espella was to see some magic, then someone had to don this robe. That's the robe of invisibility. I gave Espella new memories so that she would live in this town with everyone else. I also sealed the memory of her friend Eve. What? My existence was too strongly connected to her memory of the fire. Afterwards, I returned as Darklaw, a stranger to Espella. But even if you were doing this for Espella's sake, that's going too far. I made that choice. I do not regret the past 10 years. Meanwhile, my father has been supporting Labyrinthia from behind the scenes in his own way. Do you mean his contributions as an alchemist? My father's knowledge of medicine was indispensable for this town to function. The hallucinogenic ink was my father's work as well. So it was. Newton and Eve sacrificed more than anyone else for the sake of Espella in this town. I will be forever indebted to them. We wanted to save Espella just like you. But then, there's still something I don't understand. Why were you trying to destroy this fake world? In the end, you chose to betray Espella and Mr. Cantabella. Oh, but I've told you already, have I not? It was your revenge against Mr. Cantabella for choosing to end the story, correct? I wonder whether that was the true reason. Professor? Would Miss Belduke really betray them merely because she did not want the story to end? I dare say there was another considerably more important reason. She had another reason? No need to frown and dismay, Mr. Wright. Please leave this to me. Well then, let's hear what the Inquisition has to say. What other reason led the witness to betray Mr. Cantabella? The suicide note. I think it's the suicide note. I'm gonna use a hint coin now. Yep, it's definitely the suicide note.
Have a look.
This letter was Miss Belduke's real motive. What is this? I think I've seen it before. That's the letter written by Mr. Belduke for Mr. Cantabella. It's also Mr. Belduke's suicide note. My dear friend, I hope you can forgive me for leaving this world of my own will. What I have done cannot be forgiven. I can never escape from it. Something was tormenting Mr. Belduke. It became too much for him to bear and drove him to suicide. These past 10 years, I thought Father was glad to be helping Cantabella. But, little did I know he was suffering terrible anguish all that time. Cantabella twisted the lives of so many people for the sake of his daughter. Was the story not but a glorified lie, stripping so many of what little happiness they had? All those years, Father was racked by a crushing sense of guilt. His agony culminated in the incident of 3 months ago. Mr. Belduke's death. Okay, so what really happened 3 months ago? Before Labyrinthia was created, certain things had to be concealed in order to seal Espella's memories. Had she seen them, she would have remembered they were simply too dangerous to her. One of them was me. Espella's friend Eve had to be reborn as a shade and disappear into the forest. The next thing was the bell tower. I see. Had she seen it, she would have been... it would have stirred up traumatic memories. Memories of the legendary fire. The only way to prevent that was to erase the bell tower from Labyrinthia. But how could you do that? Using the same method as with this robe. The robe of invisibility. In short, we covered up the tower with a huge robe. Although it wasn't as easy as it sounds. In other words, the bell tower had been there all this time. Only the townspeople couldn't see it, is that correct? Indeed. I don't know what to say. At any rate, the situation changed due to that lightning strike 3 months ago, did it not? It was a most unfortunate accident. The lightning set the bell tower's cover on fire. That cover was quickly consumed by flames, revealing that abominable bell tower. The beginning of all this, the Bell of Ruin appeared before us. 'Twas mockery of our efforts. That tower emerging from the flames must have seemed like a sign of divine anger to Mr. Belduke. A sign that no matter how you attempt to conceal your sins, the truth will eventually float up to the surface. Having realized this, Father chose death. She was such a kind-hearted man. I didn't have an inkling of what we had been going through. To him, the participation of Labyrinthia people within the project was not voluntary. Even though they had themselves signed the contract, I believe he felt those people were being deceived. Father took his life because of you, Cantabella! Damn. Now you know why I did what I did. I lost my father 3 months ago. That day my revenge began. Your revenge? The first step of my plan was to rewrite the story. What did you say? As president of Rabulum Inc., you had to spend most of your time in London. Over the past few years, you were coming to Labyrinthia only for the parades. So naturally, I knew you would never notice if the story was slightly changed. That explains it. I couldn't help thinking there was something strange going on. Mr. Cantabella is Espella's father after all. He wouldn't have made Espella a witch in his story. Aha. Espella was... a witch? When did that happen? How could you have known after all? Let me fill you in on the details. Espella has already been tried once within the witch's court. Impossible. Why? How could you? You knew the risk that would carry. Look at you. What a fine author of grand story you are. You left all the work in Labyrinthia to me. Meanwhile, you are making millions for yourself in London. What a pathetic excuse for a father. You didn't even notice your precious little Espella was in such danger. Urgh. Miss Belduke, why did you do that to Espella? Do you even need to ask? I did it to unlock her memories. You mean, when the legendary fire took place, Espella was so traumatized that she closed herself off to the world. We were just little girls then. That tragic accident was too much for us to handle. This fictitious town was created as a facade to keep the truth away from Espella. But the weight of all these lies led my father to his suicide. Despite that, the person responsible for all this carried on as if nothing had happened. I couldn't forgive him. As Belduke's bereaved daughter, I had to have my revenge against both Cantabellas. Judge, this is the whole truth. Now you know the true identity of Bezella. Wow, that is one hell of a story. Oh, come on! You say this is the whole truth, but is that really the case? Are you kidding me? Professor, what are you going on about now? We have already provided with a clear picture of what happened to Espella so long ago. Nevertheless, you haven't yet heard your testimony. Don't be ridiculous. This will be the last testimony in this trial. Tell us about the night of the legendary fire. I request that you tell us your story. Who do you think you are, Inquisitor? I am merely one of the supporting characters within this tale. However, I am very much interested in the truth. This has been a very long trial, of which this shall be the last interrogation. The court demands that the single other witness of the legendary fire provide us her testimony. Oh my god, this better be it. This better be it. Very well. There's only one truth and nothing can change that. Alright, the final effing testimony. Jesus.